Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brookter? Here. Mr. Spees? Here. Mrs. Thomas? Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Ballantyne? Mr. Blash? Here. Mr. Daly? Here. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started, just a few public announcements. Would everyone please silence their phones and electronic devices? With regard to appeals, any appeals of this board from the aggrieved party may be appealed to the 22nd Judicial Court. With regards to speaker cards, anyone who would like to speak or just note whether you are for or against any particular case, there are cards that are sitting on that little platform there to the right, to my right. If you would just fill that out and we'll get them up to me. Also, public speaking for or against any of the cases. Each side will have 10 minutes and there will be 5 minutes each for rebuttal. And if you have to have a conversation outside of this room, please remember that if you go into the lobby, we can still hear you. So if you would please exit the building for any conversations you may have. Thank you. Okay. And for today's meeting, we're going to appoint Mr. Spees and Mr. Blouch as members of the commission. They typically serve as our alternates, but today will serve as voting members. Moving forward, has everyone on the board had an opportunity to review the minutes of the April 6th meeting? And if so, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor, please vote using your screens.
All in favor?
Okay. We do have a case that we would like to move up on the agenda, and that is case number 2342 on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to move it forward to the first case.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving it up, please vote using your screens.
Who did the motion in the second? I'm sorry.
Mr. Blouch made the motion and Mr. Brookter second.
Motion carries.
Motion is approved to move case 2342 to the first case on the agenda. Do we need to read the staff comments on this case?
No, just read the request
Okay.
itself.
Good. We have a request in this particular case by the applicant in an ED1 primary education district for, number one, a waiver of the required 35-foot street planting area and required number of trees and shrubs. Also, a waiver of the required parking lot screening to allow for the construction of a parking lot and additional education building. Also, allow for one 24-foot wide two-way drive and two one-way drives not exceeding 19 feet wide. The property is located at 70104 Wolverine Drive, Covington, Louisiana, and the applicant is Northlake Christian School. Are you the applicant, sir?
My name is Tommy Buckle with Duplantis Design Group. We are the engineers working with Northlake Christian. We actually are still working on some changes to the site plan that have been recent. So we respectfully request that this be tabled this month, and we're going to try to work with staff on some further development as we go forward. So.
Perfect. Okay, we have a request by the applicant to postpone. Do I have a motion to accept that? We have a motion by Mr. Blouch. Second by Mr. Brookter. All those in favor of postponing this case, please vote by using your screens.
Mr. Daly? Motion carries.
Okay, this case has been postponed. Thank you. Moving forward with our Next case on the agenda is case number 2021-2313. Is a request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential district for an after-the-fact variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 5 feet to 2 feet, 6 inches, and from 5 feet to 6 inches to allow for a boathouse to remain on the site. The property is located at 207 Chubasco Lane, Slidell. The applicant and representative is Robert Milligan. Staff comments, please.
As per the Unified Development Code, Section 130-2127, accessory building placed on a buildable lot of record shall be located a minimum of 5 feet from the nearest interior side lot line. The objective of the request is to allow for the completion of the construction of a roof over the existing deck and a boathouse, and to allow for the structure to remain within the existing required side yard setbacks. As stated in the attached narrative, a similar structure was demolished and it has been replaced over the existing dock and also extended into the water. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties has been demonstrated to warrant the support of this requested variance.
Is the applicant present, Mr. Milligan?
Robert Milligan. Basically what I did was I bought the house about 6 months ago, and I had some bad piles. Most of my piles were existing, and they were right where they are now. And I didn't change anything as far as moving the piles further outward. I left them in the same location. So I thought that was an as-is when I bought the property.
Okay.
That's the only state I was, and I can show you pictures of other properties that are the same way in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Robert J. Milligan,
And your address, please?
207 Chubasco Lane.
Okay, good, thank you. Does the board have any comments or questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
Mr. Blausch?
Yeah, yes, sir. If I can ask you a question real quick regarding the previous boathouse that was there. Did it actually encroach into that side yard setback as well?
Yes.
So that was existing?
Yes.
Okay,
I got pictures here.
yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Please come back up to the mic to answer the questions.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that it's, at that point, the old boathouse was non-conforming to what the new
That's correct.
ordinances are? Okay.
And I have pictures to show it right here.
I've reviewed the pictures, and I'm kind of having a little hard time to understand it from the views that you submitted. So,
And I even talked to my neighbor. His is just as close as mine. I have pictures of his,
Yeah.
and I got an affidavit from him.
okay, I did see that as well. Tell me about the other boathouses in the area. Are they pretty much on that same old ordinance? Is that what's going on here?
Yes,
Okay.
it's in the old neighborhood, the old first section.
Okay,
And back then, I guess they didn't have so many variances in there.
Right.
And I got one neighbor that lives next door to me, hasn't lived there since Katrina, and his house is dilapidated. I mean, that's how bad it is, but,
okay, thank you, sir.
okay.
Mr. Bruchter? Mr. Milligan, please. We have a couple of more board members who would like to ask questions.
When you bought the property, so you just put it back like it was?
Correct. I replaced 4 piles that were rotten where the boathouse was.
Okay. You didn't add anything to it, just the same width? What's the size of the boathouse?
The boathouse is roughly 30 feet by 15 feet, something like that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Spees?
Was this previously a house or just a boat with a cover on it?
Boat cover only.
That's what it was?
Not a living quarter, just,
And this is gonna be the same thing?
yes.
Okay. So you're making your objection based on the fact that you're going by the rules of that particular code, right?
That's correct. It was taken down and rebuilt to the way it was before.
Okay.
So there
okay, but-
was no request, as far as what the new setbacks are.
Okay, so it's, considering that there's a lot of other places built in the area, just like this one, I guess it would be okay for us to override that based on that.
It's for the board to make the decision.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Blouch?
Just one more staff question. Ms. Lambert, would that normally trigger some sort of building permit to do this sort of work, or?
That's correct. He's
Okay,
gonna
so at that
have
time, he
to-
probably would have been notified that he was outside of the side yard setbacks?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
It started construction before applying for the building permit.
Okay. But he has, at this point, gotten a building permit, is that correct?
And the building permit has not been issued. I don't know if it was applied for.
Okay.
Mr. Milligan, would you please come back up? Could you please come back up to the microphone? Thank you.
Originally, I thought I didn't have to because it was an existing roof, and it was my mistake. I corrected it, and I went through all the things that I had to do to get a permit and drawings.
Okay. So it has been applied for, you're saying?
Oh, yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
I have a question for you. You said that you had existing pilings there in the same position?
Yes.
Is this new pilings that you put?
I
or you
put
used-
4 new piles in.
And that they were,
All the rest of them are there.
and the 4 new pilings are still in the same location
Yes.
as the old
Yes,
that were
sir.
moved? And the existing or previous building had a roof,
Mm-hmm.
and you're putting a new roof?
I put a new roof, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Blouch, any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, let me clear the floor. Okay. Is there anyone here, I don't have a card for anyone to speak in opposition, but is anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion. Mr. Blouch?
Okay, in light of the information that's been imparted to us by Ms. Milligan, I'd like to offer a motion to accept the variance as it has been requested.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the variance as been requested. Do we have a second? We do have a second. Is there any further discussion between the board? Seeing none, would all those vote using your screen, please?
Motion carries.
Motion carries, Mr. Milligan. Thank you.
Good. Now,
You come on up to the mic.
do I go get my permit now? Will it be ready?
We'll sign off on it, and it should be ready tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
You can
Thank
give me
you.
a call tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving forward with case 2021-2330, request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential district for a waiver of the 50-foot no-cut buffer on the east and west sides of the property. The property is located at 306 Brewster Road, Madisonville, Louisiana. The applicant and representative are Randy and Marianne Lutman. That's correct? Okay, staff comments, please.
The reason for the request is to allow for the construction of a new single-family residence on the site. The purpose of the required no-cut buffers are to preserve the character of the surrounding area and to conserve the natural resources. Staff is opposed to the request, considering that the waiver of the required no-cut buffer along the interior side property lines will eliminate the screen between the proposed single-family residence and the abutting properties developed with single-family residences. And the subject property is 1.97 acres and provides plenty of buildable area for the proposed new residence.
Is the applicant obviously is present? Would you step forward? Do you have anything else to add?
My name's Randy Lutman. You need my address too?
Yes, sir.
It's 41333 North Hoover Road. It's in Ponchatoula.
Thank you.
All right. We just bought the property several months ago. It's been abandoned, vacant for several years, and it's overgrown. The main reason why we're going to cut those trees down, there's a lot of them that are leaning. It's over 100-foot tall pine trees that not only endanger our house that we're about to build, but the neighbors as well, along both sides. We'd like to at least, we want to try and make the property look not overgrown the way it looks right now. And there's a lot of those big trees that are leaning.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience, I see no cards, but is anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this? Seeing none, does the board have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Blouch?
Yes, Mr. Lippman, do you know if there, or have you provided, or have you had or seek the advice of an arborist, a licensed arborist, to take a look at those trees and see what sort of condition they're in?
I had a company that comes out and does clearing, and then, as far as what advice to take them down or not,
Correct. If there's an issue or a dangerous issue that exists?
I have not, no.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay,
they are
thank you.
leaning. I mean, anybody can see that they're not straight.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Daly?
Oh, thank you. On the aerial, is there an existing building on the site, and is that pretty much in the location of the house?
No, the building is over to one side of the property, and we had that torn down this
Okay.
past week. That's no longer there.
Okay. Because it looks like it was
Yeah, it's off to
far
the
into the, I can't tell
one
which
side,
direction.
correct. To the east side.
The east, okay.
Mr. Lewin, on the DeForest
Yeah,
side of the property, is that, am I correct in seeing that property line is approximately 350 feet in length?
right.
Okay.
250 on the sides.
And which street would your property or your home face?
It's going to
Okay.
face Brewster. It has a 306 Brewster address, so it'll face Brewster, and we'll come in from Brewster.
So essentially, you have 350 feet of width on DeForest and Brewster, or somewhere
Right.
near that on Brewster.
Right.
And your variant request is to take 50 feet on each side of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I had all of the calculations correct. Thank you. Is there any further questions from the board of the applicant? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion. Oh, Mr.
Yeah, I
Daly?
was gonna
I'm
ask, sorry. I guess I never, oh, it said I was next. You have to say you're done, yeah, before. I'm just, sorry, of the applicant, was there consideration to move the house site to more to the interior of the plot within
Yes.
that 300 feet?
Yeah. Toward the back and kind of centered in the middle, maybe off to one side a little bit.
So the building, none of the building area would be within the 50 feet. This is just sort of a request to clear that area of,
Yeah, yes.
I guess my
Some
question
of
is,
the 50 feet from the west side, let me think from the west side, they have really, like I said, over the 100-foot tall pine trees that would, if they fell, it could potentially reach where the house is going to be.
sure. And I mean, just to follow Mr. Belcher's, I mean, there's provisions to remove trees that are in danger, so I don't know why a variance would be needed per se to do that.
Well,
Is that,
there's a difference between endangered and dead. If the trees are dead or really broken off, then they can be taken down. But if they're just leaning or partially leaning, it doesn't mean that they can be taken down. Of course, if the tree is almost fallen down, then.
right, right. But for a land clearing permit, you would accept sort of an arborist going out and, you know, saying this is a dangerous tree and needs to be removed or cleared?
Well, if the board would like to vote in that fashion.
Yes, Mr. Liner?
Can I ask the applicant a question?
Yes, sure can.
So is it a request, and I thought I heard you say something about cleaning up the property and making it look better.
Right.
Are you looking to clear cut? Are you looking to do some underbrushing and clean it up and make it look presentable?
That, yeah. Look at, make it look presentable.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, if we take trees down, my son and I own a landscape company, and we're gonna put a better, a nicer tree rather than a pine tree or something that makes nothing but a mess. We plan on putting trees and beautifying the property.
I mean, I wonder if, you know, staff should work with the property owners before, you know, determining if we need a variance or not. Maybe this step, and if you have the time, you know, we can meet before the next meeting and determine if a variance is required or if we can meet your needs and, you know, get you moving without a variance. It's just something, you know, I was thinking about as he was speaking. But again, that's up to the board and up to the
Well,
applicant.
we could entertain a motion to postpone this and let the applicant meet with staff again and see what, we may be able to solve this without even you coming back.
I mean, again, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
just
Oh.
up to the applicant, you know, if that's something he wants to consider. I don't
Sure.
know.
Sure.
I do see that, Mr. Daly, are you completed with your questions? Okay, Mr. Blouch?
Okay, yeah, Ms. Lippman, would that work for you? In other words, is that something you would want us to do, is go ahead and table this and see if in fact,
That's
rather than
fine.
vote on this right now?
Sure, that's fine with me.
Okay, okay, great,
I have no problem coming back.
okay.
On this particular case until next month. Give the applicant time to work with staff.
Perfect. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Daly. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those, please vote with your screens.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward on the agenda, case 2021-2331, request by applicant in a MD3 medical facility district to reduce the required street buffer planting area from 35 feet to 14 feet. The property is located at 67252 Industry Lane, Covington, Louisiana. The applicant is Fairway Real Estate Holdings, LLC. Dr. Samir Shemaya, not sure if I got that correct. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the street planting area to be consistent or in line with the existing buffer located on the adjacent property, which is currently occupied by Avala Hospital, and also for the placement of parking spaces within the required 35-foot planting buffer. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that by reducing the number of proposed parking spaces from 296, which is required, from 296 to the required number of 275 spaces, the required 35-foot buffer could be provided and the variance would no longer be necessary. Since this variance was submitted, we had a discussion with the applicant, and there will be a request to amend the request. So we have some plans here to distribute to the board members.
Thank you. Let us go ahead and get our new documents, and we'll move forward. Thank you. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Mike Bucher with Urban Properties, 1582 Magazine Street, New Orleans, representing Avala Hospital and Fairway Real Estate Holdings.
Thank you. Do you have any additional information to add regarding your new,
Yeah, a few things I'd just like to add and a couple reasons why I'd like you to consider our variance proposal here. The first exhibit that I gave to you is the color-coded exhibit. Essentially shows what came to light after our application for the variance. I'll read to you from what Ms. Lambert sent us. Flexibility of depth of street planting areas. The required depth of the street planting area may be adjusted so the depth of the street planting area may be reduced to a minimum of 10 feet up to a maximum of 20% of the length of the street planting area, provided that a depth greater than the required depth is added to other areas of the street planting area to maintain the overall required street planting area. So the exhibit, the first exhibit that you have in front of you, essentially shows what that 20% would be, clear in the blue.
Pardon me, can you tell us if it's this this
I'm
one?
sorry, it's the one in your left hand.
Okay.
Yep, the one with the blue and red at the top, or on the left side, and the green on the bottom. So the blue essentially denotes what 20% of that area would be, and the red essentially denotes the rest of the area for which we would be asking for a variance. So in effect, we are still asking for a variance. The variance is just for a lesser amount of reduced buffer than we had initially sought. The reason that we're looking for this particular variance, is I really like to make 3 points. The first one is really that this plan was not done in isolation or quickly, in rush for this meeting. We started working on this plan in April of 2019. We've been working on it since in collaboration with the parish. And so this is the result of, I think, our 20th version of a plan for which we have not only walked the site with the parish, met with them multiple times, modified ponds, saved trees, met our 25% stormwater retention area. When you were to look at what these variances would have been possibly a year ago, it's really been a great collaborative effort in reducing it to this one very small variance. More importantly than that is patient care. It is very important to Avala, and most hospital systems for that matter, to have as much parking as possible around the main entrances of the facilities. Avala is no different. It's a surgical center. Most of the patients are elderly. If not, they have medical conditions. And for that reason, we want to be able to park as many people in front of the new proposed building. I would say thirdly is future flexibility. The proposed building on the site is a 4-story, 55,000 square foot building next to the existing 60,000 square foot hospital. The building's uses on floors 1 and 4 are known at this time. The floors 2 and 3 are not. So just by way of example, we have a 20-space surplus. If a rehabilitation center or a physical therapy center wants to occupy space on the 2nd or 3rd floor, we will then have a much more rigorous requirement for handicap accessible spaces. So that 20-space buffer could become a deficit pretty quickly, just depending upon the use, not to mention changes in parking regulations over the course of time. And also, the existing hospital is there. If you look at your second page, you can see where the hospital is and the setbacks, the access and the circulation between new and proposed. New is at the top of the page, proposed is at the bottom. We're really creating a campus environment where everything is cohesive throughout the course of the entire 7-acre campus, and looking to create the sight lines, the access, the circulation, the pedestrian friendliness of a campus that's predictable, not that has blind turns and curves throughout a parking lot. And we've been able to maintain that pretty well throughout the course of this. And so really, I'll wrap this up, but I think that, for us, first and foremost is patient care and ease of access, but more so than anything, this is not something that everybody is seeing for the first time. I think we've worked pretty hard together to reduce it to just this one thing. Thank you.
I have a question regarding the existing parking lot, so that the line is consistent. Did you obtain a variance in the previous project? It seems to me there's additional parking. It's not completely clear to me, but it seems like there's additional parking in the parking lot that you're trying to maintain the consistent line. Did you receive a variance for that?
So that parking lot, that hospital was built in the late 90s.
Okay.
It was purchased by the current ownership group along with what is now wooded property in 2017.
At the time it was constructed, the minimum green space requirement was 15 feet.
Okay. And you're just trying to maintain that line?
Yes, and partially, that's one of the reasons, yes.
And now you've actually reduced the amount of variance, or amended the variance for a lot less, or maybe half of what you originally requested.
Yeah, exactly. So we've amended it to half of which we originally requested, which doesn't take away the request. We still are looking for the
Sure.
other half, or whatever 20% we want to carve this up at. I think at the end of the day, if it's the blue or the red on the first exhibit, we're going to lose 8 or 9 parking spaces and gives us a surplus of 10. I've been around too long in these hospital systems to recognize that it's not, I'm sure you have plenty of developers coming in here arguing why they need a variance because they don't have enough parking. I think to be able to come in with a surplus of 20 spaces and be able to know that we have that for the future is a pretty, is a pretty desirable thing.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none? Is there, we do have 2 cards, neither wish to speak, but, or for the variance, and one is from Michael Butcher,
That's me.
Michael, and then, and then the other is Tommy Buckle. The other. Okay, we have, just for the record, we have 2 cards. 4. So, seeing no other comments, the chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Daly, second by Mr. Spies. Is any further discussion? Seeing none?
Just as a point of clarification, you're approving according to the,
Oh. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Daly. Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Blouch?
I'd just like to add that it makes me feel really good when staff can work together on a project like this to come to a conclusion. I don't think that this is a huge variance request, considering what the gentleman has described earlier to us as the process going back to, I think he said April, sometime back that way. So I have really no reservations about this at all.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please use your screens to vote.
motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say that, yes, the staff has been working with Avala, and they're a great addition and to the area, and just keep, improving and expanding their campus. So, yeah, just continue working with them and hopefully having great things come. So, thank you.
Thank you. And like Mr. Blouch, I would like to also comment that it's nice to see that staff is working with the applicants and trying to smooth things and get things to work out for the best of everyone. Thank you. Okay, moving forward with case number 2021-2337, request by applicant in a PF Public Facilities District to, 1, reduce the required setback from 171 feet to 42.1 feet on the west side, from 171 feet to 58.7 feet on the east side, and from 171 feet to 81.9 feet on the south side to allow for the placement of a cellular tower. Further, reduce the required front yard setback from 50 feet to 25 feet to allow for the placement of a utility H-frame structure. Continuing, reduce the required front yard setback from 50 feet to 18 feet to allow for the placement of a generator. And lastly, a waiver of the required front landscape buffer and required number of trees and shrubs. The property is located at 76002 Highway 1077, Covington, Louisiana, and the applicant is the St. Tammany Fire Protection District number 13. Staff comments, please.
The setback variance requests are on the south, east, and west sides. The tower is proposed to be located within the southern portion of the parent track, which is triangular in shape and therefore cannot accommodate the required 171-foot setback of the proposed monopole tower on all sides of the track. Staff has determined that a hardship or practical difficulty appears to exist on the east and west sides due to the property being triangular in shape and the track being limited in area in which to locate the tower. However, it appears that no hardship or practical difficulty exists on the south side of the track. The relocation of the proposed site towards the north would allow the tower to meet the required setback on the south side of the property, to meet the required 50-foot setback for the placement of the ground equipment, which is the generator in the H-frame structure, and to provide the required front landscape buffer, including the required number of trees and shrub. Note that the relocation of the site towards the north will not place the existing fire station within the fall radius of the tower.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, good afternoon. Chip Lyons, 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm here on behalf of Verizon Wireless, which is the cell carrier that is proposing to construct the tower. And with me are Chief Johnson and Assistant Chief Ori from the Fire Protection District. I guess I'll go ahead and start off with in response to, I want to show you, and I'll kind of do it on both sides so you guys can see it. I'll show you. So this is the property, sort of triangular. Here's where the tower is going down at the very bottom of the property. Ms. Lambert noted that the variances over here, staff is okay with those. She mentioned the variance up here and potentially moving the tower closer to the fire protection district. After we got staff's comment, and I'll show it to you guys so you can see it as well. After we got staff's comment, we checked with Chief Johnson. The reason the tower is at the bottom of the property is the district has plans to build a training center in this vacant area here. So because of that, the southern portion of the property is the only area on the property where the tower can go. With regard to the variance down there, we've also resourced, this is a large undeveloped tract here that is owned by Resource Bank. And we checked with them. We have a letter of no objection to them. So the adjoining property owner down here is fine with the requested setback variance. And we're kind of tucked into the bottom of the property there because of future potential development on the fire station property. Real quickly, the need for the tower is, given COVID and other increases in data consumption, all the carriers are doing whatever they can to provide additional coverage and capacity within their networks. So this map shows what existing coverage is in the area. Blue, green is outdoor coverage, blue is indoor coverage, which is the best coverage. Nationwide, over 500, in addition to people having to work from home, over 500,000 calls a day to 911 are made from cell phones within residences. So it's important for the carriers to have as much indoor coverage as they can. So what this shows is that in the before, you have a large area up here that's green, meaning it's just outdoor coverage. In the after, most of that green disappears, so you have a lot of indoor coverage there. So this is provides additional coverage in that area, and from a capacity perspective, from the carrier's perspective, it's almost like you have a subdivision with 50 houses in it, you have one drainage requirement. If you have a subdivision with 150 houses, you have a different drainage requirement. So on the capacity side, what this site does is allow data that's on these other antennas to be transferred to this one, and that provides both better coverage in this area and better coverage to people on other antennas in the network. The site also, so it would have Verizon at the top, and then below Verizon, there's going to be room for antennas that serve the fire protection district that supplement their radio system. In addition, in order to try and minimize the extent of the variances, the initial kind of engineer's request for this site was to do a 200-foot tower. We worked with Chief Johnson and the engineers, and we were able to reduce the tower from 200 feet to 160 feet, and then 10-foot lightning rod at the top. So those are the basic reasons for the request. We do feel that based on the portion of the property that we're limited to, that we have met the variance request because of the future development on the fire department property. And I can certainly answer any questions, and both Chief Johnson and Assistant Chief Ori are also here as well, if anyone has any questions of them.
Before we move to questions, I don't see any speaker cards, but is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to this? Seeing none, do we have any questions from the board? Yes, Mr. Blouch, I see you coming up.
Okay, yes, sir. The only concern I think I would probably have, and obviously the southern portion of that boundary is not going to make a difference if it were to fall, but obviously we have to consider, whether or not this is a safe situation for residents in the area and potential new housing on the, I guess, east side there. So you're telling us that the Resource Bank at this point in time is okay with it in terms of any type of development in the future? And I guess my second question too, I know there's technology that is applied to some of these towers that have a breakaway effect. So can you explain that to us?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I apologize if I neglected to mention that up front. So the way the way zoning codes are generally drafted is that there's an assumption that a tower is going to fall like a tree and just come straight down. The way they're engineered now is that the towers essentially have a break point in it. So whether it's a monopole or this is a self-support, which is sort of a three-sided lattice work, the towers are designed to have a fail point at a certain point on the tower, so that if there is an unlikely event, there's a structural issue, the tower is designed to break. So this tower, and we have a letter from the engineers who will be designing it, saying that if this tower does come down, it would come down within a 42-foot radius, which would be entirely within the Verizon leasehold area. Okay. So by designing it that way, it mitigates the closeness to the property boundary and provides extra safety for residents, so that it wouldn't create an issue on adjacent property.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do see the fall radius letter in your package, but what I didn't see and you mentioned was the letter of no objection from Resource Bank.
Yeah, we
Did you happen to have that?
I believe, I have a copy here. I believe we submitted that with or after the application, but I have a copy here.
If I'm not mistaken, I emailed it to you.
Oh, it may be, sorry. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
Sure.
you had that. And in reading the case, I think there is some advantage to the fire department. Are they going to also use the tower? Could you help us out with that, please?
Clint Ori, 872 Cole Court, Covington, Louisiana. Chief Johnson asked me to be here. I'm not officially with the fire district. I was the chief of administration for 20 years, and originally when Verizon approached us, helped negotiate the deal. So there's a couple of reasons why we have an interest in this. The primary reason is the antenna that we can locate on that tower. We actually have two spaces, one for our backup VHF system, and then we have a parish-wide 700 system, and it will allow us, that system continues to be built out, if there is a need to, we'll be able to add that antenna as well. So it will benefit not just our fire district, but other entities within the parish if that was needed. So that was one big thing. The other thing is, obviously, there's passive income that doesn't require us to tax taxpayers in doing this, so that's another big advantage. And then the other thing is that we actually are customers of Verizon. So our tablets that are in all of our frontline trucks use Verizon LTE, and we get the directions to the call. We get the locations of hydrants and our water sources with the water flows, the CAD notes from the dispatchers, all that comes real time, but it's based on that connection that is spotty at times there. Verizon is the best currently and will become definitely the best in our district based on us testing it years ago. That has remained the case. And so we have multiple reasons to want this. And then as he stated, the location was the biggest thing. Nobody's going to, none of us know what that area is going to do in 20 or 30 years. And that part of the parish has been the fastest growing for a while now. So what that area will look like and what we'll be required to do with this fire station, it was built for, a very small department that could change dramatically. And we don't want to tie that piece of land up that, again, would be very expensive down the road to try and mitigate the taxpayers when we could just move the tower. And we felt like from the beginning, the plan to have the breakaway tower to make sure that it wasn't going to endanger, because obviously we're in the safety business. That's a big concern for us. It can't impact our ability to respond. It can't impact traffic on the highway, and we don't want it landing on somebody's home. And so we feel like those things have all been addressed. So I don't know if there's any questions concerning any of that, or Chief, if you have anything to add?
No. Any further questions of the applicant from the board? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Okay, Mr. Bloch?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion to accept the request as submitted, all three of the, or four, lost count, I guess it was 4 or 5
Four.
variance requests in that case.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the variance as it was requested. Do I have a second? We have a second by Mr. Brookter. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, would everyone use their screens to vote, please?
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward on the agenda, we have case number 2021-2338. Request by applicant in a plan unit development overlay to reduce the required side yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family residence. The property is located at 398 Rue Charlotte, Lot 22, Madisonville, Louisiana. The applicant is Henry Billiot. Ryer LLC. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the construction of a 70-foot wide residence instead of 60 feet, to allow the same 10-foot side yard setbacks required for Lot 24 and 25, almost adjacent to Lot 22. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request. Although the shape of the rear of the property is affected by the presence of a creek, it will not prevent the construction of a residence nor to meet the side yard setback requirements.
Is the applicant present? Yes.
Looking at 2339 and 2338, they're almost identical cases. And I
That's
thought
correct.
maybe we could
Yes.
do both of them at the same time, or you have to?
We may be able to do that. Should we just read that case and combine the two? Or should we just, same applicant, yes?
You can, just if you're gonna add any additional time, if you think that's necessary, it's just better to do that on the front end, but it would not be an issue here.
We may not have an issue needing additional time. If we do, we'll grant additional time since we're going to combine, we can combine the two cases. I do think we need a motion on each case.
I wasn't really thinking about the time, but it just
Okay.
going through the motion
Sure.
for the two.
We'll have to vote separately.
Right.
But yeah, we
Yeah.
want to have a separate vote, but understand that
Hear them together,
Mr.
vote separate.
Billiot will be here for the next case, and it's very similar. Is that just for the adjacent lot?
Yes,
Perfect, okay. So
Is the applicant's okay with that as well?
are you okay with that? Yes.
perfectly fine, thank you.
Sure thing. Okay. All that being said, do you have anything else to add to the case?
Yes,
Mr. Billiot?
first of all, I'm not-
I'm sorry, please state your name and address.
I was just going to say, I'm not Henry Billiot, I'm Henry Sanchez. Henry Billiot's my partner, he's out of
Okay.
town this week. And I want to thank everyone for their attention. If I slur, I apologize, I had root canal done this morning, so my face is half numb, so I apologize. So the two requests, I'll just talk about the two requests at once because they are so similar. So we have two requests today. Both are for reducing the side setbacks on lots 22 and 23 with the addresses of 394 and 398 Rue Charlotte in the Willow subdivision in Madisonville. This is a subdivision with a total of 25 lots. We have a number of those lots already sold. The plat for the Willows was recorded in August of 2018, and this issue just came up recently when we had a contract written on Lot 22 requesting a 10-foot setback instead of 15. So we looked at the plat and realized that we probably should have just done the 10-foot way back in 2018. So it's really a simple reduction request from 15 feet to 10 feet. Of the 25 lots in the Willows, currently only 9 have 15-foot side setbacks. The remainder all have 10-foot side setbacks. So basically, it's going, as Ms. Lambert said, it's going to bring those two lots in line with lots 24 and 25, but also directly across Rue Charlotte, lots 6 through 15, all have 10-foot side setbacks. So it would bring the whole street in line with the side setbacks. In addition, one of the builders on Lot 21, Brandy Heath, she has filed a no objection letter. She's actually going to come before this board, I think, next month, asking the same thing for her lot. So just give you a heads up that that's coming your way. But she did give us a no objection letter and had no problem with that. Also want to point out that I contacted all of the current homeowners and lot owners in the Willows and let them know that I was coming to this meeting, that we were going to making the request, and I heard no negative responses from any of those folks.
You don't have copies, right?
No, it was just an email. No, I don't have a copy. But I do have Ms. Heath's adjoining property owner no objection letter. So that should be in the file. From the perspective, just to sum up, I think it's pretty easy, I think, to show you some compelling reasons. Obviously, this is a de minimis request. It's not changing the character of the neighborhood. The side setbacks are going to be in accordance with most of the other lots in the neighborhood. As I said, Ms. Heath's going to request one for Lot 21 soon. We, as Ryer LLC, we would potentially lose a lot sale on Lot 22 because of this. And one thing I do want to point out too is I did look up the code. So the code section 130-2191A3 has a 7.5-foot side setback requirement. So we're actually still going to be within 2.5 feet of that side setback. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, do we have any questions from the board? Mr. Blausch.
Yes, I'm just curious, and it's more out of curiosity than anything, why was the submittal of the plat with varying side yard setbacks at the time? Because I see some at 10, some at 15, and I'm just curious as to why that was.
The simple reason was that they were all different. They're not all exactly the same size lots, so we tried to keep as many uniform as possible. Like the opposite side of Rue Charlotte, most of those lots are, I think they're 65 by 120 or something like that. They're pretty standard size. And then this other side goes around a cul-de-sac, and the property came into like a V shape at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we had
Some of those are varying sizes and shapes?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Spies?
You did say that all the other lots on that street would have the same setback
Correct.
with this change?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions from the board of the applicant? None? Seeing none, I would say I would entertain Mr. Brookter?
I want to make a motion.
Okay. Make a
I would
motion,
like
please.
to make a motion to approve the variance for case number 2021-2338.
Okay, is your motion to approve the variance as stated?
Right.
As requested? Okay, we have a second? Second by Mr. Spies. Okay, any discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, everyone please vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to case 2021-2339.
I'd like to make another motion for case number 2021-2339 to approve the variance as read.
Hey, do I have a second? Okay, we do have a question.
Is this the same situation for these lots as was previously, where they all shaped the same, they had the same setback? Is it the same on this one?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, and Mr. Spies, you want to offer a second? I'm sorry, Mrs. Spies, I'm sorry, I'm looking the wrong direction. Mrs. Spies. Second? Sorry, Mr. Daly. Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant the variance as requested. Any discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, everyone vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Okay. All right, moving right along, we have case 2021-2340. Request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district for a waiver of the required 25-foot roadway buffers. The property is located northeast corner of Caroline Street and Rapatel Street, Mandeville, Louisiana. The applicant is Big D Land and Cattle, Dennis Passantine. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the construction of a fence around the wooded area, which the wooded area on the property is to remain, and is to allow sufficient space for the maintenance on both sides of the fence. Note that no other trees are intended to be removed, and the existing interior trees are planned to be maintained to create a buffer. There is no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties have been demonstrated. Clearing of the property outside of the 25-foot roadway buffer will not prohibit the placement of a fence and to allow for sufficient space for maintenance.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would you please come forward and state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Members, I'm Tim Burns, representing Big D Land and Candle and Dennis Passantine, and my address is 1368 Rapatel Street.
Thank you. Do you have any further comments to add?
Yes. The applicant just wants to put a fence. His home, as you can see, I think on the aerial, is to the left as you face it. His home is to the left of the subject property, and he has green space, acreage of the green space that's on the right, and he just wants to basically line up the fence that's in front of his house, line it up on the vacant lots that he intends to keep vacant, and run the fence on Rapatel Street and also down Caroline Street. And there's just not quite enough room for him to be able to put a fence up. There, but he intends to leave. He wants the area as a buffer. He just wants enough room to put a fence up that is, the same, to be consistent with the fence that's in front of his residence, which is directly to the left. And that is my request that's our request for the waiver.
Okay. Do we have any anybody in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, does the board have questions for the applicant? Mr. Blouch?
Yeah, Mr. Burns, I'm looking at what was submitted on, I guess it's just a hand-drawn plat, but it says remove all pine trees and select cut hard trees in path of the future fence. In other words, my question, I suppose, to you is this is not a clear cut in that 25-foot buffer where you're just going to clear that whole thing down. You're just going to remove, or you're asking to remove any trees that might hinder a straight line for a fence coming through?
Yes,
Is that correct? Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And it's mainly the pine, and we'll try to work our way around any other type trees.
Okay. Is the applicant opposed to any sort of replanting for those trees that do have to be removed?
No, sir, he's not.
Okay.
Mr. Daly?
Yeah, I just had a question of what this was going to look like. So is there drainage along those two ends of the property line? So along Caroline?
Yes,
So it's just, it's an open ditch. So it'd be the open ditch, and then there'd be a certain amount of space, and then fence, and then space on the other side. Call it somewhere, okay.
Mr. Spees?
The staff, I believe the staff said that they wasn't requiring any trees to be cut down, that they had a straight path for the fence. Is that right, Ms. Lambert?
No.
You didn't say that?
I was under the impression that the request was to completely clear the entire 25-foot buffer. Oh, just enough trees to put the fence. Okay, well, maybe there was a misunderstanding. The way it was illustrated, it was, okay.
Is it my call? It says it's on, I don't know why it's so quiet.
Ms. Lambert, then, should we be entertaining this variance if possibly he just wants to clear out some trees for his fence? Does he just go back and meet with staff?
No, he needs to request the waiver because
Okay.
he's requesting to clear some trees, not, I think it's just the pine trees or some of the trees to be able to put the fence and align it with the other property. So you'll be removing some trees within the
Okay.
25-foot buffer. It's just gonna be a controlled clearing.
Okay. A couple of questions. You said you want this fence, the applicant wants the fence, Mr. Pessantine, to flow with the fence that he currently has along his property. Okay.
Talk a little louder, Mr. Vernon.
Yeah. Is your mic, is this mic on, guys? Give us 1 second just to make sure we have your mic.
Not coming through clear.
No? Ran out of juice. Fresh batteries.
Right.
Okay, let's try that again. Would you just repeat your answer to my question about Mr. Pessantine's existing fence and how it will align?
Yes, it's a wrought iron fence, and he just wants to keep it consistent, and we're frankly not talking about that many trees. There's just a couple that are in the way. You know, that lot's never been frankly touched, and he just wants to keep, you know, a fence with just enough to put a fence up in the front and then to be able to, you know, have the fence run consistently, because there are a few trees in the way.
Okay, just to clear up a few things. Our case says, request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district for a waiver of the required 25-foot roadway buffers. On this particular document, it says to remove all pine trees and select cut hardwood trees in the path of future fence. So what exactly is it? Is it just clearing the trees in the way of the fence?
Yes, sir. Sorry for
Okay.
the.
So
Okay.
you will keep the rest of the pine trees, or will you remove all the pine trees within the 25-foot buffer?
No, just those in the way of the fence.
Oh, just those in it, okay.
Yeah.
Can this be amended anyway?
You can amend his request, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that'd be
So-
fine. Thank you.
Okay, so we should look to amend, would you,
Sure.
should we vote for him to amend the request?
No, I think he can just
He could
amend his
state it
request.
here. All right, then we'd like for you, or would you like to amend the request to something different than waiver of the required 25-foot roadway buffer?
Yes, sir, I would.
And what would you like to amend that?
To
To s-
just allow enough to be able to build a fence.
Okay.
To-
In line with the fence?
In line with the fence,
Okay,
yes.
is that satisfactory, Ms. Lambert? Okay, we have an amended request. So are there any further questions of the applicant? No? Okay, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by
I'll move.
Mr. Spies, for the amended request?
Amended request.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Brookter. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, would everyone please vote using your screens?
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, members. I appreciate you working with me.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward with case 2021-2343, request by applicant in an A3 suburban zoning district for a reduction of the required side yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet to allow for the placement of a carport. The property is located at 240 East Pearl Drive, Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant is Melvin Cousins. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of a 558 square foot carport on the existing slab. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties has been demonstrated to warrant the support of the requested variance. And what I'm passing around here is a letter from the applicant. I emailed it to you this morning. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but it will be coming around to you for you to review.
Would you please, you Mr. Cousins?
Yes, sir.
Please state your full name and address for the
Melvin Joseph Cousins, 250 East Pearl Drive, Slidell, Louisiana.
Thank you.
70461.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to add to your case?
I don't know if, I'm kind of a Neanderthal when it comes to computers. I don't know if this other attachment got through to you guys or whatnot.
I emailed another attachment as well. The one
The
you
one with the little
emailed,
sketch,
Let me see.
is that the one that you sent last week?
I didn't send it. That's why I'm asking. I don't know how to send these
I
things.
don't have it in the package. Do you have additional copies of that?
I do.
You could bring those up, and Mr. Brookter or Ms. Lambert, please. I'll get a copy of that. I just didn't have a chance to look at it either. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have it.
You
Ms.
do have it,
Lambert.
okay.
Ms. Lambert was passing this, okay? I think that's the same thing, yeah, okay. Okay, now that we have the additional information, would you like to add any additional information to the case?
Well, it's basically a carport with no utilities. The slab that it's going to go on is about 50 years old, and the subdivision has varying side backs. One's 5 feet, one's 10 feet. It's just no conformity in the subdivision. And I own the adjacent lot as well. So I don't object to myself doing it, and the main reason is that side gate. I have that 10-foot side gate, which allows access to the yard for equipment. The last hurricane, I had limbs and trees and stump grinders had to come in. But I can't do it on the other side of the house because I have my septic lines there, and they said not to run heavy equipment over the septic lines. So basically, with the 5-foot reduction, I could put it fully on the existing slab and retain my 10-foot gate with no other modifications.
Let me ask this before we move forward. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, okay. If I'm looking at this correctly, the existing slab is much larger than the carport you intend to build upon it.
Much larger.
Okay. And that distance is 10 feet between the building or,
The
I would
property
guess, your
line.
home?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. The slab was built to 5 feet, and
Okay.
once again, the slab was built in the late 1960s. So
Okay. And the slab was built 5 feet from the property line?
That's correct.
And the adjacent property that you said you owned is on the side of the carport?
Correct.
That is, okay. Okay, that's my questions. Does anyone else have questions for the applicant? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
To approve the variance.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the variance. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Daly. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, would everyone please vote using their screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Cousins.
I would like to thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward to our last case on the agenda today, case 2021-2344, request by applicant in an A6 multifamily residential district for a reduction of the required front street planting area and setback from 20 feet to 6 feet to allow for the placement of a dumpster. The property is located at 61326 and 61334 North Military Road, Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant is SAL LLC, Sal Secura. I may have, sorry.
Well, that's okay.
That's
I'm
okay.
not Sal.
You're not Sal, okay?
I am with New Works. I'm the contracting company that is proposed
Okay,
the.
can you hold on 1 second, sir? We have to read the staff comments first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're a little bit ahead of schedule here. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of a dumpster within the required green space area. As stated in the attached narrative, the dumpster had to be relocated due to the placement of a fence along the property line, preventing access to the dumpster in its existing location. Although a dumpster is not required to be provided on the property, there is no objection to the request, as it appears that the proposed location of the dumpster, as shown on the attached plan, is the most appropriate to allow adequate space and also adequate access for the trash pickup.
Thank you. Okay, would you please state your name
Sure.
and full address for the record?
Sure. My name is Dennis Foss. I'm with New Works LLC. We're located at 942 Industrial in Kenner, Louisiana.
Okay, do you have any additional information to add to this case?
No, sir, I'm the one who drew up the plans. I'm the one who proposed it. So if you have any questions pertaining to that, I am very familiar with the situation. Just to enlighten you, we didn't have this situation when the owner bought the original apartment complex. It had a side dumpster, and we discovered that the owner of the trailer parking in the back owned a 6-inch or 12-inch area across that. He didn't like the fence, so he put up a new fence. When he put up the new fence, he blocked us off and did not grant us accessibility to the dumpster. So the only place that I have to put the dumpster on this property is what I'm proposing. Because on the opposite building, the setback is the same, but the fence is further onto the property. Where the fence is now on the south side of the property, we have enough room to extend that fence, build our dumpster pad, have accessibility for the dumpster company to drive onto our property on a driveway so they're not hindering Military Road. And we feel that it's a lot better than having 26 garbage cans all over the complex.
Does that complete your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience to speak against this variance? Seeing none, we'll go to board questions. Mr. Blouch?
Yes, sir. What sort of provisions have you guys looked into in terms of a screening or a,
We're gonna put, which I didn't understand, but when I first submitted it, I put a 6-foot wooden fence around it. They came back to me and said I had to put a 7-foot fence. So I said, okay, that's not a problem. We're also planning to put greenery around the fence to add shrubbery to kind of hide it. Anything we need to do in that way that the board would like, we're very easily will do that.
okay. Also, with regards to any sort of clean outs or drains or anything like, is that required for that, or?
No, it's not. They don't require a drain in a dumpster pad unless you're using it for food. This is not food, this is for personal waste. We are putting a 6-inch wide thick slab. We're putting a curb around where the whole dumpster pad is going to be. It is gonna drain to our driveway, which has drainage to the drainage ditch, which is right there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Question I have is, were you using the adjacent property previously to access your dumpster?
Well, it's only 12 inches wide. If you look at my drawing, the side street is a main street that the parish maintains. And everybody uses that street to go to the convenience store, to go to the trailer park in the back. The owner did not know that the trailer park owned this 12 inches. In fact, he's actually dealing with his, title search company from when he bought the property. That should have been in the title search that he doesn't own this 12 inches, but it wasn't. So he was under the assumption that he owned from the first building all the way to the side road. So it was very upsetting that the gentleman built the fence, closed off the dumpster. I personally approached him to try to get accessibility, and he says, no, I'm not gonna do that. And the parish says they can't do anything about it. So this is our only option, which is costing my client money. I mean, this dumpster pad is not $400, you know?
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of added cost to him for something that he was unaware of when he purchased the property.
Understood.
So,
Thank you. Seeing no, Mr., nope.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Seeing no further questions from the board, the chair will entertain a motion.
To accept it.
Mrs. Spies moves to grant the variance as requested. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Daly. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, would everyone vote using your screens?
Motion carries.
so now I
Thank you.
can just proceed on with my permit program that I've already applied for.
You applied for the fence permit
I've already applied for the dumpster pad permit.
and the fence as well?
Well, the fence was part of it. I thought that was the requirement that I had because it was a dumpster pad, was the 7-foot fence.
Yet the 7-foot fence, you can add that fence to your permit.
I think it's already on my permit. I changed it. I
Okay.
changed it from a 6-foot fence to a 7-foot fence.
Sounds great.
But I think my permit states that I'm gonna put a 6-foot fence, and then when they said that that's what I had to change to get my permit, I changed it to a 7-foot fence. That's when the variance came into play when I went to go issue it, so.
You may want to just verify that with
I
Ms.
can-
Lambert.
I
and
can-
then
I can do
make
that.
sure you're moving forward properly with your permit request.
Yes.
And good luck
Okay.
with your project.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that completes the public hearing portion of our agenda. Is there any old business? Seeing none, is there any new business?
We will have approximately 5 new cases.
I have one piece of new business, and it was just to mention, and help me if I'm get this not quite worded like it should be, but just to make everyone on the board aware that if you miss 3 meetings, is it 3 or more than 3? We're gonna get the, Okay, if a member should miss 3 consecutive regular meetings or miss 4 regular meetings in a year, this will be sufficient cause for removal from the board. We just wanted to make that, make you aware of that. We understand that you may have other obligations at time, but just, it's important that we have your presence here. So if, you know, mentioning this helps out, we wanted to make sure of it. An additional piece of new business, in some discussion last month with our legal counsel, we would like to take a look at the bylaws. Nothing has been set formally, but I think we'll take a look at some things that maybe we need to address. Not quite sure the last time the bylaws were addressed, but that is something that will probably be ongoing for some time. But just be aware we will be taking up potentially some bylaw changes.
Would that include like processes for the meeting, guidelines, that sort of thing?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it looks like they haven't been updated since 2012. So, yeah, definitely meeting processes, just hopefully some clarification of some of the language that's used in here. And Helen, if you wouldn't mind, the only copy of the bylaws I have are the strike-through copy. If you wouldn't mind sending everyone on the board a clean copy of the current bylaws to work from, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Will there be an opportunity for discussion beyond our meetings, or how does that work? Like a study session or something? Right, right.
We hadn't really discussed that, but would you have any ideas on that?
I mean, I wouldn't have any objection to doing that, but if any, more than a quorum of members will be present at any one time, we'll just do it as an open meeting with proper notice.
Right.
So,
I think that's helpful, though.
Yeah.
or it could be added as an agenda item to a regular meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that input from the members would be good. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Brookton?
At our next meeting, you cover those guidelines, so everybody's aware of what those procedures need to be.
We will, and we're going to get everyone a copy. Just as an example of the bylaws, I had to pull my copy just and ask the question last month. It was just in a short conversation, did I have the right copy of the bylaws? So we want to make sure everyone gets the correct copy, and then everyone can review those and bring comments. We may put it on the agenda as a new business or maybe old business now. Items for discussion, so that we can, you know, just take a look at everything, and then any recommendations from legal counsel. And would you think that we should be maybe prepared for comments at our next scheduled meeting, or maybe in the next 2 months, 3 months?
Helen, maybe you'll, that
Okay.
are able to address that depending on how many cases we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can wait a little bit,
Okay.
you know, in a couple of months, just to give enough time to the board members to, you know, more time to review.
More time to look. I agree with that. So sometimes, let's say in the next quarter or next 3 months, we'll have some time to discuss this. Yes. Would that be,
Yeah, it'd be appropriate for you all to submit suggestions via email
Okay.
to Helen or to I, or to both Helen and I. It just would not be appropriate to have discussions regarding any substantive changes to the bylaws with a quorum of the membership by email.
In other words, just do not reply all.
Correct, right, yeah. Send it to Helen and I, don't reply all to the, all to the
Okay.
board.
don't start any email discussions.
Right.
Are the mics on?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was
Sorry.
my fault. Wasn't talking into my.
Okay.
Are there any items that are required of, you know, that are parish requirements that we can't alter in there, just on our own?
And if you'd like, I can send you both the strike-through version so you can see what was previously in place. It's just a little harder to read. So you can see that what has existed in the past and what was changed. And we don't really know why everything was changed, but, you know, hopefully there was some basis for that. But, you know, one of the important provisions in the bylaws that I don't think should change is that the BOA doesn't have the authority to grant variances for any use of land, any zoning type of decisions, or any other specific prohibitions in the UDC. So that's something that.
But that's beyond our purview to change, right? I mean, that would be a parish, that'd be a parish council issue, not the board itself.
What, for,
In terms of like our purview of what we can make decisions on.
and that is, the powers of the board are laid out in revised statute.
Oh,
And they're-
okay.
And the parish ordinances actually use almost the exact same language from the revised statute.
Okay.
It's revised statute 33:4727 that lays out the powers and procedures for the Board of Adjustment. And the bylaws that are currently in place, you can tell were written in light of the existing revised statutes.
Okay.
But no, we can't extend
Right.
those powers, but we can work with certain procedures.
Procedures, sure.
Right.
Okay.
And also, this will need to go, any bylaw changes that are recommended by the board will have to go to the council and be approved by the council
Okay.
by resolution.
Okay, any further new business? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay.